Thought we would talk about the physical books that I read, and then we'll jump into the ebooks and the audio. So I started off the month really strong with the Ember and Ashes series by Sabaa Tahir. And when I tell you that this series deserves all the hype that it gets, I actually think it needs to be more hyped up. This is a YA Rome-inspired fantasy, and it is done so well. When I tell you that you are going to fall in love with these characters, and I love a series because sometimes a series will start out, oh, I'm absolutely not going to enjoy this character. I'm not going to like them. And then we get into the story more, and obviously things change, and it is my favorite. I love when I feel a certain way about a character, and then the longer I'm with that character, the more that changes. So book one really started off very strong for me. We are introduced to our wide variety of characters. And so in this series, you're going to have magic, of course, and you're going to have a tyrannical government, pretty on par of what we see obviously in fantasy books, right? That there is a power, a group of people who want to keep the other people oppressed, and that is no different here. I love the found family in this book. I loved the romantic subplots that we got. They were absolutely devastating, and I just think it's one of those series that where the magical system is just very digestible. It's very accessible. So I think if you are somebody who maybe you're worried about getting into fantasy and you're not really sure, I think this is a really great place to start. Then I picked up For Whom the Bell Tolls by J.C. Lynn, and this is a wonderful romantasy. And in this book, we are following Lily. She has died from cancer, and she finds herself in the afterlife. And she used to work customer service when she was alive. And you might be like, Sarah, why are you laughing? Because this book is very serious, don't get me wrong. And I cried several times, but it's also equally filled with a lot of humor and a lot of love. Anyways, so she's in the afterlife, and she essentially sees that hell needs help with being able to organize where people will go, because there's different levels of hell and everybody experiences different things based on what they did on earth and that type of deal. And so she ends up being a customer service rep essentially, and is helping them organize all of that. And again, it's just one of those books where found family is just so beautiful. If you are like me and you grew up in a very religious household, a very conservative, and a very just felt like you really couldn't be who you are outside of the religion that you were told this is how it is and all that, I think this book will really resonate with you. I found it on one hand a little bit triggering, on the next hand a lot healing, and so I love books like that can continue to help me as an adult experiencing the things that I did when I was younger. And again, we have a wide variety of characters. The love in this book is so sweet. Lily does end up meeting someone named Bell, and he is a general. Really is just the sweetest character, and I really enjoyed him as well. They both have been through their own things, of course, and so they're navigating their relationships. And then there is this little girl named Sharky, and she is such a significant role of this book. She has endured so much when she was alive, and she does not realize she's dead, and so they're having to break that to her, and then they just take her in, and it is the sweetest relationship. And it's also really heartbreaking to see what Sharky went through and what that looks like. And so this is the first book in a series. I will definitely be picking up more. I'm excited to read more from J.C. Lynn. And then I finally started the Green Fun Saga with Jade City by Miss Fonda Lee, which she does have a new book coming out this year. So this is the first book in the Green Bun Saga. This is a urban fantasy. We are following a couple different clans in this book, and they essentially are fighting over jade. So jade is the resource that fuels each clan. These clans actually used to work together, but they no longer do, and one clan wants to do something with the jade, the other clan doesn't want to do that, and so we just see things get more tense and they progress. 3 siblings, and I'm a sucker for any type of sibling relationship, and so that was a really great surprise. And I will say these sibling relationships are a bit messy. They are very tense. There's been a lot going on. There's been some changes in power, and that has affected their dynamics as well. And I really enjoyed all of that. We are introduced to a lot of characters. So I will say this book is very info dumpy. It is very wordy. I keep saying wordy because sometimes I was just like, we have mentioned this about 1,000 times, but maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it just is a way for us to get it stuck in our brain. So I really did enjoy this. I do think it's a strong start. I am nervous to start Jade War because I have heard that it does have middle book syndrome, which is fine, but sometimes I'm surprised because there have been several middle books that I have absolutely loved and become my favorite of of a series, a trilogy, whatever the case may be. And so I'm curious to see if that will be the same with this one. Then I finally picked up Son of the Morning by Akwaeke Emeze, and this, well, I actually don't know if this is gonna be a standalone. I'm hoping, I do think this is gonna end up being a series, and I do think it's actually gonna be adapted to, I don't know if it's gonna be a series or a movie, so I'm very excited for Akwaeke Emeze because that is just so exciting. But in this book, it's basically we're following Lucifer, his princes, we're following Galilee, who's a part of the Kincaid family, and the Kincaid family are a group of really powerful Black women. And the thing with Galilee is she's always known she's been a little bit different, but nobody in her family will tell her what it is. They will not tell her what it is. So she decides that she's gonna move away, and I get it. Sometimes your family, it's too much. You've been living on this land and you love your family, but you're also like, no men are allowed to live there. They can have their dalliances and stuff like that, but essentially it's just Kincaid family. So I can understand wanting to go out on your own and experience your own thing. And so she ends up moving to the city, and she has these two really great friends, and I will say that her friends made me laugh throughout the entire book. They are so much fun. They made me so happy. I loved reading about them. They are just like those friends that are gonna do anything for you. And so we get to get little small glimpses of what her life is like now. One of her friends ends up having this event that they have to go to, and I'm telling you, upon arrival, she literally finds herself in a situation with the devil himself. And she doesn't really believe it. She's just like, you're not actually Lucifer. And he's like, I am. And he doesn't normally tell people that he's the devil. Very insta-lovey, so if that's not your thing, then you probably won't enjoy this. But this book really suffered from making it a 5-star read was that it was just way too short. This book is beautiful, but it's barely over 300 pages. And because there is so much to uncover with Galilee, her history, her past, how she got here, what that looks like, and then we're following Lucifer, where he got to be being a fallen angel, and there's so many ties there. It just left me wanting. I didn't have enough time. I wanted more time. So it ended up being a bit of like a Polly situation. And you might be like, well, don't you know, Sarah? Because we do have one of the princes back here. And we just get very small glimpses of what that could look like, which again, leads me to believe that this is going to be a full-on series again. To this incredible duology. The first book is Radiance. The second book is Eidolon. And in this book, I just was cracking up. Here's the thing. If you can make me laugh in a book, you've pretty much sold me. Book, we are following Ildilco, and she is essentially being married off a political marriage. She is the niece of the king, and so they want to make good with the Kai people, world building. But I feel like if you've read enough fantasy or romantasy, this is a pretty typical kingdoms, things like that. So that didn't bother me at all because I've read a lot of fantasy. So it's just like, I don't need the description of this entire world. It's pretty straightforward. And when I tell you, when these two meet, it's hilarious. We literally start off the book and it being Ildilco's wedding day. She decides she needs to go into the garden because she just needs a moment. And it's so hilarious because she ends up meeting the stranger there. And then of course you find out that it ends up being her betrothed. And so they think each other are ugly. They don't like each other. They don't think each other attractive whatsoever. And that theme plays out through the book. It's definitely more of a slow burn. I am a slow burn girly. I love it. I eat it up every single time. I thought these books were so romantic and just so sweet, but also have got a little bit of action in there as well. 2 is definitely heavier on the political themes and what's happening, that type of deal. So I didn't enjoy book 2 as much just because I was cracking up so much in this book. We still have glimpses of them and things like that, and there's different sides of the story that are developing, but I think overall this is a really great duology. Then I picked up How the Word is Passed by Clint Smith. This was my nonfiction of the month. This author is taking us through different plantations, taking us through different sites, things like that, and it is phenomenal. And I think if you are someone who is actually trying to learn about the history in the United States, then this is key. It is fantastic. It's one that I still keep thinking about and I keep referencing and keep coming back to. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy that I finally read Rebel by Beverly Jenkins. This was one of my Bookie Mutuals picks for 2026. And Chloe, you're a doll because I was so happy to read this. It was such an easy 5 stars for me. I read it over 2 days. I quite literally could not put it down. I already knew that she was such an incredible author, but to read her work is a different type of experience. And this book we're following Belinda. She moves to New Orleans. She's a teacher, and she's been loving teaching. She is teaching people how to read and write and overall education and all of that. And then of course, some racist white assholes decide to destroy where she's been teaching. And it's not like it's easy to come around and just find a place to teach people, especially when you have this oppressive system that just wants to keep you down. So whenever she sees her school, she ends up having a run-in with the same men that try to destroy it. And so then steps in Captain Drake, and he sees what's going on. He steps in, and I tell you, that man is a badass. Oh my gosh. And he ends up saving her. They end up having this friendship. They both have their own secrets. So Valinda is technically engaged to her best friend. This is a spoiler. I'm gonna say it right now. This is a spoiler. Stop here. Her best friend is gay. And so basically they were just essentially going to have a lavender marriage, and this was going to please both of their families. Obviously it was not safe for her friend to come out as gay. He does have this business partner, but they're also lovers. And so they're away. And so essentially whenever he is coming back, that's when she is going to be like moving on. And so as they become closer, Drake is like, I want her, she is mine, how do I get her to be mine? So good. The romance, the love. I love that when a man is down bad for a woman or vice versa. They're both so cute, and I ate it up. There's definitely some family drama in here, and it does end on a happy ending, of course. I had the complete honor of receiving The Art of Survival by Lilith Quinn from Lilith Quinn herself. So she typically writes splatterpunk or extreme horror books, and so this is her first literary fiction. It is such a heavy book. It comes out on February 8th. I don't know if I will have this video posted or not by then. This might be late, but I definitely think if you were looking for a very short but impactful read, this is going to be a great one. We are following Beverly, and she has come from a hyper religious home, especially from her mother. Her mother is extremely religious to the point that all she does is comment on Beverly's body and how she's not good enough and how she's gonna go to hell. And then she has a dad who's not involved. And then she has a little brother who she can't stand, is addicted to drugs and alcohol. She's an incredible artist. She makes very dark art, and she's able to survive off of selling her art. She has someone that she sells her art to, and he is the sweetest. And it just goes to show we always need a lifeline. She's been abused since she was a child, and it is just such a dark book. I found myself not wanting to put the book down, but it was so heavy. Her relationship with her brother Jacob ends up changing, and that was so beautiful to see. Again, I love anything with siblings, and to see their relationship grow and develop was really beautiful. My only qualm with this book is that I wish it was longer. I could have read 450 pages, 500 pages of this and just really seeing that story develop. So Lilith Quinn, I hope you write longer stories in the future, because I think that you are such a talented writer, and I would love to dive into your stories even more. This is fantastic. Please go pick it up. This was one of my biggest disappointments this month, which I hate because Catapult sent me this book. Granted, I didn't request it, but I do appreciate it. This is Salvation by C. William Langston. This is his debut novel. Tom is the one who murdered his best friend, Rust. And Rust has a little boy. So Rust has been unalived. His son, Gus, is what to do, right? So Gus ends up going and staying with Pastor Green. And so we get Pastor Green's POV, we get Tom's POV, and then we get a random Marshall's POV. And the Marshall chapters, I think, were supposed to be very philosophical, very deep, and had all this meaning. I thought we were going to get some kind of really engaging story, but I just felt bored most of the time. He was just a man who just could not get over the bad things that happened to him in his life. And don't be wrong, he does come from a father who was abusive. His mom did love him very deeply. She just put up with whatever his father did. And so obviously that relationship wasn't great. She ended up dying from cancer. And then he's essentially mad at Rust this entire time because Tom had fallen in love with one of his coworkers, and then they just did not have a healthy relationship. The woman he fell in love with ended up marrying Rust and having a baby with Rust. And so Tom has held on to that grudge. And then he finds out, he finds out that Rust has put his hands on his son, Gus. And this whole time, Tom is like, I should be Gus's dad. And so it's just a whole thing. And I don't know, I just felt like, bro, you need to go to therapy and you need to work it out. And I just felt like the overall messaging, what was it? I don't know, but it wasn't for me. Move on to everything that I read via audiobook. So I finally read Blockshot by Miss Kennedy Ryan. I read Longshot last year. That is a very devastating book. Blockshot just really pissed me off. Don't be wrong, I love a cheating trope. I actually love it. I eat it up every single time. I love to see how that affects our characters and what that looks like. This cheating trope, I guess you could say it was very realistic, but it was just, I was actually mad at them. I was so angry with them because of how it was affecting the third party that was involved, the person that had been cheated on, and it was just awful. The main male character, I could not stand him, and I just cannot stand it when in a book all we do is focus on a woman's weight. Literally from the very beginning until the very end, we are focusing on the main female character's weight, and it drives me insane. I understand that if it's a part of a book, of course, but until the bitter end, we're still talking about it. Let's just embrace being plus size and beautiful and all these kinds of different things. And she did know that she was beautiful. She knew all of those things, but it just kept being harped on. And I was like, can we move on, please? So anyways, I did not like that one. But I will say I'm almost done with the third book and it has redeemed itself. But Blackshot was bad. So 19 minutes, I technically did the immersive read. I do not have the book anymore. I sold it, but that's by Jodi Picoult and it is following a school shooting, really character driven. I just found it very underwhelming. I thought we were going to have, the major twist wasn't very twisty to me. It's probably my least favorite Jodi Picoult book that I've read. Psycho Fae, which is the second book in the Psycho Shifter series by Jasmine Moss. They are coming out on audiobook. I always say that I probably wouldn't enjoy these books if I was just reading with my eyes, but the full cast is really fun and the audiobooks are done. Headlights by CJ Lead. This is her new novel that is coming out. And this is definitely more of a thriller mystery. I just feel like I love CJ Lead. So let's be very clear. I have loved all of their other work. This one was the most disappointing to me, even though it does have such an incredible cover, but it was so disappointing. It really took me to get to the 70% mark. And then I was like, oh, I can get with this. I just feel like compared to her other work, it just did not go as dark as I was hoping it would. It just never got there. And so that was really disappointing. I really wanted it to get there. Bolt Cut, which is the author's debut novel, and we're essentially following a woman who has to go back home because her godmother has passed, so she has to plan the funeral with her brother and his wife. Here's the thing, her and her brother have been estranged. His wife used to be her best friend. They have been estranged as well, and so she's having to navigate these relationships. She also has this love interest that plays a role, and things get pretty dark and twisty really quickly, and I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. Gave it right under 4 stars, but I think for a debut novel, it's definitely there. It has some humor in there. And if you like an eco horror, which I really enjoy eco horrors, I think this could be right up your alley. Sinner's Revenge, The Good Uncle, and A Girl's Girl by Deathly Rose, but she no longer writes under that. So I mentioned Lilith Quinn earlier, so this is actually her other work. She does have one more book under Deathly Rose. So again, she no longer writes under that name. These are extreme splatterpunk or extreme horror books. The Sinner's Revenge, you do need to read the first book, which I can't remember the name right now, but I'll put on the screen. And so those two are connected. The Good Uncle is connected to it, and then A Girl's Girl is just, it's separate from them, but I enjoyed them. I kind of binged them all in a day, which I'm not saying you should do that, but they are very short novellas. Angled by The Alien Rancher, which is the second book in this interconnected series. This one was just a little bit too fluffy for me, which is really unfortunate. The main alien male character, I was really like, he is really funny and very cute, but I just feel like not a lot happened, but I think it was an okay palate cleanser. The Red Winter, which is a queer, dark, historical fantasy. I really enjoyed this. This does come out in February. I had the audiobook for it, and there's multiple narrators. There is funny demons. It is a retelling of The Beast. I can't ever say the name. It's based in France, and we get different timeline jumps, that type of deal. Dominion, which is a Southern Black drama, and it is definitely going to give you all of that. We are following a pastor and his wife. They have 5 boys. There is one boy. His name is Emmanuel. He goes by Wonder Boy because he has an incredible singing voice. He's very popular in his life. He gets into a relationship with this girl named Diamond. It gets very dark and a little psychotic, but it was good. I read Echoes of Us, which this book has already been published, but the audiobook is coming out, or it might already be out by the time that I post this. But this is I don't want to necessarily say it's a sports romance, but I guess it could be, because both of our main male characters do meet on the volleyball team, I think was the sport. Sometimes, y'all, when a book is just disappointing, I don't hold on to the details as much as I should. But I think this could have been really good. They did have multiple narrators. Again, I listened to this on audiobook, but it's hard for me to say that this is a romance book. It's more of a love story because we do have 2 individuals who do love each other. One of our main male characters, he is addicted to drugs and he has some mental health stuff going on, that type of deal. His father has passed and that has really affected his life, his relationship with his mother. The main male character, he comes from a very loving home. neither of them have really talked about their sexuality openly. It's more of a toxic, codependent type of relationship, and it could have been really good, but I feel like we just had all of this trauma and all of this stuff, and then we get to the very end, and then it was just like there wasn't a lot of the after, which is really unfortunate. So unfortunately, I don't really recommend something light and fluffy. But Ashford Parker Doesn't Fail. I read the first book, I think back in 2024. So I finally got to this one. I actually enjoyed this one a little bit more than I did the first book. We are following Jordan and Astrid, and they are essentially working on this establishment that is in Jordan's family, and it's just super cute. It's so sweet. They were making me giggle and laugh, and again, I love it when friendships really come into play, and obviously it's connected to the first book, and so anyways, I really enjoyed it. It's a great sapphic rom-com. I read Charming Your Dad, which just has been on my TBR for such a long time, but we're essentially following a witch and a demon. The witch has been dating this human for a while, and then she gets this audio message from him having relations with another witch that is in her coven, essentially, and he's like, no. And so I don't care about them, blah. So she gets real mad about that, of course, and she ends up meeting, ended up meeting his dad, and his dad is a demon. He doesn't know that about his dad, but they end up having a relationship. I thought it was fun. It was light. It made me laugh. So I read Oxford Blood, which this is a YA dark academia mystery type thing. I really enjoyed the talks and conversations about being biracial, specifically with a white mother and a black father, and I think those conversations are really important, especially for, in general, of course, but especially for young adults and trying to navigate that. But essentially, we're following our main FMC. She is wanting to get into Oxford, and she has this relationship with this boy, and they're not necessarily together, but they definitely are together type of deal. He ends up dead. And so they're trying to figure out his mystery. Pretty straightforward. It wasn't anything mind-breaking, boggling, anything like that. So it was fine. Read The Obake Code. This is about a hacker, and she's essentially retired from hacking. She is called the Obake, and she's retired, but it's one of those things. Can you do one last job? And she decides she's going to. So she's got to get around. She's got to team up her people, right? And this was a little bit chaotic. It was a little bit everywhere. I do think this follows Home Along Jock Lock, whatever that book is called. I haven't read that, so if you've read it, I've heard nothing but good things. But this one, it was fun. It was a little bit everywhere. We are introduced to this AI part of the book. Not that the book is written by AI, there's just an AI character in the book, and we kind of get these jumps to the AI's brain, and it was a little confusing, especially if you're just reading this via audio. I think this had a lot of promise. There's a very small romantic subplot that I liked. Of course, as a romance reader, I always want to dive into the romance a little bit more, but it was overall, it was okay. I wonder how I would feel if I had read the other book by this author and see if that would affect how I feel. But overall, it was just a book that I read was Saving Sunflower, and this was another book recommendation from my friend Sierra for 2026. And in this book, we are following two really beautiful characters. They are 19 and 22, I believe. And man, their relationship was, one, they start off as friends, which I thought it was such a beautiful friends to lovers type of situation. This is the first book in a series, and it took you through the ringer. They are just involved in the story, and I thought it was developed really well. It's just one of those romance stories that it's just so much more than a romance. We're following their love story, and we have different family dynamics that come into play. We have grief, we have drama, of course, all of it. And our main female character, she's navigating college and just trying to live her life, but she can't help resist her love interest, and I just thought it was done so well, and I really enjoyed it. So I'll definitely be continuing the series for sure. So I think that I read in the month of January. Let's hope to February, maybe I'll slow down a little bit, but probably not, considering I'm reading 5 things right now. But if you read any of these, let me know. If you want to talk about some more of these, let me know. I'm happy to talk about more. But anyways, happy February. I hope that you guys have a great day.